You know, we don't have the specifics, but I'm sitting here thinking of the president's suggestion, not really a plan yet, that people could effectively purchase citizenship with a $5 million payment, if I have that correct. Now, in some countries, you can actually do this. There's countries in the Caribbean where you can do that. They do pretty well. And we get the usual Marxist class warfare arguments. Well, what about the poor? Well, what about them? We got a zillion programs for poor people, for refugees, and on and on and on. Well, all millionaires aren't nice. That's right, they aren't. In fact, I can think of a few billionaires who aren't nice. But they'd still have to be vetted. It doesn't say you purchase it and then you could just waltz into the country. No. You'd still have conditions precedent. That is, you'd have to pass the vetting process. So I'm thinking to myself, what is wrong with this exactly? We have people coming in, using our resources. They are a net drag on the economy. They're a net drag on our hospitals, law enforcement, our schools. And the left seems to be perfectly happy with that. I'm not perfectly happy with that. And then this guy who thinks completely out of the box, he says, wait a minute. What about some of their millionaires and billionaires? You want to come? You want to be a citizen? You're going to have to go through the rigors of a vetting process, but you can do so with a $5 million payment. And I'm sitting here thinking, Mr. Producer, what the hell's wrong with that? It doesn't cheapen citizenship. Cheapening citizenship is when your borders are wide open, you allow criminals and terrorists, drug cartels to come into the country. Women being raped and sold into slavery, children missing. That's a problem. Why is this a problem? It's not a problem. Again, you'd have to work out the particulars. I'm sure they could. But it's something worth at least looking at and pursuing, and then you can determine if it's actually doable. Sounds like it is. Well, what about poor people? Again, what about them? Is there a problem that poor people can't come into this country? Am I missing something? No, I'm not missing anything. No matter what this guy proposes, they say no. No. No matter what he wants to do, they say no. They don't want the status quo of the civil society. They want the status quo of the big, fat, bloated government. You want to get into a little bit of heavy stuff? Let's get into a little bit of heavy stuff. And then we'll get into some of the other stuff. That's what you're here for. You're smart people. This is the kind of audience that I love. You look at the Democrats and what's going on now with this doge, with the spending, with the fraud, with the personnel, and they're defending every inch of it. When you confront them, they say, we just want it to be done differently. We just fear that they're reckless and they don't know what they're doing. We just fear that these people, well, they're not elected. We just fear, and it goes on and on and on. One roadblock after another. They don't support any of it. Because this is, as I've said repeatedly now, this is their government within a government. And the government within a government they own. And they don't care about waste, fraud, and abuse as long as some percentage of this enormous sum of money gets to the causes, the people, the countries that they wanted to get to. That's all they care about. They're not fiscally responsible, give a damn about what you pay in taxes or how much we borrow. That's not where they're coming from. But I want to think about this a little bit. To me, there's two kinds of law. I've been thinking about this a lot. There is law that is based on, how do I explain this? There's law that's based on, excuse me, certain spiritual beliefs. Natural law, as our Declaration of Independence says. That's based on Judeo-Christian values. In other words, law that's not simply based on excuse me, I'm kind of sick today. I'm just trying to muscle through this. Law that's not just based on somebody passing laws, legislation, but more than that. These are laws that enhance the civil society, that enhance the culture, that strengthen the country, that strengthen the family. All those things we believe in that are related to tradition and custom. There's that kind of law. And that kind of law is just, and that kind of law represents what? The value of the individual. Of the individual. Your Bill of Rights is about the individual. Your Constitution is about limiting the government. That kind of law is about what? Recognizing the sovereign of the individual, not the sovereign of government. You see what I'm saying, Mr. Producer? And then there's the other side that we're dealing with. They don't view law as based on natural rights or the Declaration. Their boy Woodrow Wilson rejected it. You saw this lady on one of the commie cable networks saying, what is this natural law stuff, this white Christian nationalist stuff? Of course, it has nothing to do with white Christian nationalist anything. It goes back to Socrates and Aristotle and Cicero and on and on and on, but she's too stupid to know any of that. Doesn't matter. So we have a law that's simply based on power. That is, a law that is based on trying to coerce, control, direct. And that's on the other side. Now, our Constitution, this country, was founded on the former. The Marxist Islamists, the Democrat Party, their media, what they push and embrace is the latter. And the ends justify the means. So the law is as they say when they say it. The law is that some of hundreds of district court judges say it is, and that's that. Well, what about the Constitution? Well, too bad. So they're at constant war with the Constitution. Why? Because it's based on the former. That is a belief system, a value system that people hold. Not on the latter, which is what? Which is about pure power. I'm doing a lot of research on this because I'm going to write a very extensive book on this. That's what I'm going to do. But I'm just running through the thought process with you. Now, the latter, that is not based on principles and values and beliefs that are embedded in the human spirit and faith, our Declaration. The latter, which is based on pure power, it can change. It can move in any direction they want it to move in. It's not really based on anything but the desire of a judge or the desire of an administration at any given time. The latter seeks to break the bond between one generation and the next. The world begins today. We start with a clean slate. That was Marx. We destroy the relationship between parents, which, of course, is the glue that holds one generation to the next. The government, through its schools, the government, through a media that basically represents the state. The government, being the sovereign, not the individual, will determine what the law is, and it won't consult the people. It'll be the unelected branches, the judges, the bureaucracy, the media. They will decide what the law is. They will decide. Oh, Congress may pass laws because more and more Congress represents that perspective. And so we're really talking about two completely different animals, aren't we? I've said to you many times, why should we respect a radical activist judge's ruling when they don't respect the Constitution or the rule of law? And I'm taking it to the next step. Because they don't respect the Constitution or the rule of law, they make up the law. So the law is no longer stable. It's no longer predictable. You don't know what you're going to get in front of one of these judges. As opposed to judges that follow the Constitution, follow the law, or are not interventionists, who are not power hungry. And that's in the whereas the latter is in the Marxist Islamist belief system. That's what you're seeing right now. So when, circling back, when Donald Trump and Elon Musk, when they reveal massive fraud, potentially criminality, massive amounts of money being shoveled off to a senator's wife or to a former gubernatorial candidate in Georgia, her favorite so-called nonprofit organization. That's another phrase that cracks me up. Some groups really are nonprofit, but a lot of them are, trust me, they're for-profit pretending to be nonprofit. Why don't the Democrats care? Because they're not looking at this the way we do. They are perfectly happy with what you and I view as the lawlessness, the fraud, and all the rest of it. They created it. They encouraged it. They're motivated by it. Every now and then they will talk about the law as you and I see it, the Constitution as you and I see it, but they don't mean it. They throw that around as a propaganda tool. And that's why they spent the last God knows how many years trashing the Constitution and the men who wrote it, trashing the American founding with the 1619 Project, trashing the entirety of society with CRT and DEI and all the rest of it. Because they don't believe in the founding, and they don't believe in the basis for the founding. That is, the Enlightenment, faith, spirituality. They believe in the iron fist. The law is what we say it is because we say what it is. I will develop this more in the days and weeks and months ahead. Hopefully the mental plagiarists out there will back off because they don't know what the hell they're talking about anyway. I hope this makes some sense of what's going on. Again, you and I believe, what the founders believed, the framers of the Constitution believed, those who embrace Americanism and constitutionalism, we come at this from principles that are literally based on something bigger than government, bigger than a Congress, bigger than courts, something that is spiritual, something that is based in ancient history and Judeo-Christian principles and other principles. Unalienable rights of what? The government? No, the individual. The individual. The other group, they never talk about the individual. They never talk about unalienable rights. They always talk about government. And they always talk about, to the extent they talk about rights and individuals, they talk about rights and individuals being vetted through the government. Which groups get what individuals get what, why they should get whatever they get. It's a totally different mindset. It's the mindset, really, of tyranny, of unstable and unpredictable laws, as opposed to the mindset of freedom and individualism, which is our mindset, which is why we have a Constitution, which is why we have a Bill of Rights, which is why we oppose the centralization of government, this massive bureaucracy that doesn't represent us, that in fact undermines representative government, which is why we support federalism. That is, the federal government exercises the powers the Constitution gives it, and when it comes to the government, other than that, the states have control. They don't believe any of that.